Here's something worth considering. The people who seem most tuned in to the world around them, the ones who read rooms, choose words carefully, and genuinely care about others, are often running on empty. Not because they're overworked, but because their minds simply won't quiet down. They revisit old conversations. They mentally rehearse situations that may never arrive. At 2 a.m., they're not kept awake by crisis, they're kept awake by possibility, by the endless loop of what if. And here lies the paradox. The same mental habit that makes someone thoughtful and deeply empathetic is the very thing slowly wearing them down. So what's actually going on inside the mind of someone who overthinks? Let's dig into the psychology. Researchers use the term maladaptive rumination, a pattern where the brain keeps returning to the same mental loops, particularly around uncertainty, past events, or social interactions. Studies from institutions like Yale and the University of Michigan reveal something important. People who ruminate aren't doing it out of anxiety or weakness. Often, they do it because their brains are exceptionally skilled at finding patterns. The mind is constantly scanning, analyzing, searching for meaning. The issue isn't the ability itself, it's that there's no off switch. Neurologically, this traces back to the prefrontal cortex, the brain's hub for planning, analysis, and self-reflection. In people who overthink, this region stays switched on even during rest. Pair that with an overactive default mode network, the brain's internal narrator, and you get a mind that's perpetually online, rehearsing conversations, drafting responses, preparing for scenarios that haven't happened yet. This pattern rarely starts in adulthood. For many overthinkers, the roots go back to childhood, to environments where things felt unstable or unpredictable. When a young person grows up where moods were volatile or where small mistakes carried heavy consequences, their developing brain responds logically. Stay alert, anticipate everything, think ahead. Seen this way, overthinking isn't a malfunction. It's a survival strategy, a well-trained nervous system doing exactly what it learned to do. Not all rumination is alike. Psychologists draw a distinction between two forms. The first is reflective rumination, turning inward to process emotions and understand oneself. When kept in balance, this is genuinely useful. It correlates with stronger emotional intelligence and deeper self-awareness. The second is brooding rumination, a passive, repetitive dwelling on problems without any movement toward resolution. This is where the real costs show up: disrupted sleep, decision paralysis, and social anxiety born from overanalyzing every exchange. Most overthinkers move between both. What starts as healthy reflection can drift, almost without notice, into a mental spiral. And because the thinking feels purposeful, the brain is engaged, active, it's hard to realize you've shifted from processing to just looping. Cognitive psychologists call this the illusion of mental progress. The mind feels like it's getting somewhere. It isn't. Here's where brain chemistry makes things more complicated. Problem solving, even imagined problem solving, triggers small dopamine releases. So when an overthinker mentally works through a scenario from every possible angle, the brain rewards that activity chemically, regardless of whether any real answer is reached. The reward isn't for resolution, it's simply for the act of thinking. This is why "just stop overthinking" is such hollow advice. The brain has a biological reason to keep going. Here's where the research becomes genuinely interesting. A 2013 study in Psychological Science found that people who ruminate more also score significantly higher on cognitive empathy, the capacity to understand and anticipate how others think and feel. They're more attuned to social subtlety, more careful about how their words affect people, more sensitive to the unspoken emotional undercurrents in a room. The very engine that makes overthinking exhausting is also what makes these people unusually perceptive. But perception without resolution is a heavy burden. The more they notice, the more there is to weigh. And the more they think, the further away clarity seems, because the mind cannot think its way through everything. Some things need to be felt, decided, or simply let go, not solved. Therapists working with chronic overthinkers don't focus on silencing the thoughts. Instead, they work on changing the relationship to those thoughts. Acceptance and commitment therapy introduces the concept of cognitive diffusion, learning to observe a thought without being absorbed by it, to notice the mental loop without getting pulled inside it. The shift is subtle but significant. Instead of, "This situation is dangerous and I need to figure it out," the reframe becomes, "My brain is producing a worry right now." One drags you in, the other gives you just enough space to breathe. Overthinking is not a character flaw. It's not a sign of instability. At its core, it's an alert and capable mind that learned, at some point, that staying vigilant was necessary for safety. The goal isn't to think less. It's to gently teach that mind, with patience and compassion, that it's finally okay to rest. We all carry mental patterns shaped by experiences we didn't choose. Understanding those patterns doesn't make them disappear, but it changes how much control they have over us. And sometimes, that understanding is where everything begins to shift.